Have you ever felt like life is hitting you from every angle? Like the storm is so strong that you can barely stand? I know what that feels like, that feeling of uncertainty, that voice in your head telling you you're not going to make it. But let me remind you, storms don't last forever, and fear doesn't have to hold you hostage. Fear loves noise. It thrives in the moments when everything around you feels uncertain, when life is spiraling out of control, and when the voices in your head won't stop whispering doubt. Fear does its best work in chaos, when you're too overwhelmed to think clearly, when you're distracted by the storm around you, and when your emotions are running wild. It feeds off anxiety, off the unknown, off the what-ifs that play over and over in your mind. And the more chaotic your situation, the louder fear becomes. Think about the last time fear held you back. Maybe it was a financial crisis that left you lying awake at night, running numbers in your head, trying to figure out how you were going to make it. Maybe it was a relationship on the verge of breaking, and every conversation felt like a ticking time bomb, leaving you anxious about what would happen next. Or maybe it was a step you knew you needed to take, a new job, a new opportunity, a big decision. But fear kept telling you all the ways it could go wrong, and because you were so caught up in the noise, you couldn't hear the truth. Fear doesn't need facts to control you, it just needs you to be distracted. It doesn't care whether what you believe is true or false. It only cares that you believe it. That's why fear is most powerful when your mind is restless. When you are rushing from one problem to another, trying to fix things in your own strength, trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. In that state of chaos, fear multiplies. It grows. It grabs hold of your heart and convinces you that the worst is coming, that you won't make it, that there's no way out. But faith is different. Faith doesn't compete with fear and the noise, it works in the stillness. Faith doesn't need to shout over your circumstances, it just needs you to be quiet enough to hear it. It's in the stillness that faith speaks the loudest. When you stop running in circles, stop trying to control everything, and stop giving fear all of your attention, that's when faith rises. Faith is not built in the chaos, it is built in the quiet moments, when you decide to trust, when you choose to believe even when everything looks uncertain. Look at the moments in life when people have done the impossible. They weren't the moments when everything was going smoothly. They were the moments when everything was falling apart, but they chose to believe anyway. They were the moments when fear screamed but faith whispered, and they chose to listen to the whisper. They were the moments when they stepped out even when they couldn't see where their foot would land, because something in them knew that the chaos wasn't in control. God was. When life is loud, fear grows. When life is still, faith strengthens. That's why the enemy wants to keep you distracted. He wants you so consumed by your problems that you never take a moment to be still. Because he knows that if you ever quiet the chaos, you'll hear the truth. You'll hear the voice that says, "You're not alone. You're not forsaken. You're not defeated." You'll realize that the storm doesn't have the final say. You'll see that fear was never as powerful as it seemed. It only had power because you were listening. The real battle isn't the storm you're facing. The real battle is which voice you choose to believe. If you stay in the noise, fear will keep winning. But if you step into the stillness, you'll realize that faith was never gone. It was just waiting for you to listen. Nobody likes storms. Nobody enjoys walking through difficulty, uncertainty, or pain. When life hits hard, the natural reaction is to ask, why is this happening to me? We see the storm as something unfair, something meant to break us, something that should have never come our way. But what if the storm wasn't meant to destroy you? What if it was meant to prepare you? What if the very thing you're trying to escape is the thing God is using to build you? Storms have a way of exposing what's inside of us. They shake everything that isn't secure, they test everything we say we believe, and they push us beyond the limits of what we think we can handle. It's easy to have faith when the sun is shining, when everything is going according to plan, when life feels safe and predictable, but faith isn't proven in the calm, it's proven in the chaos. It's one thing to say you trust God when everything is working out in your favor, but what about when everything is falling apart? What about when the job you depended on disappears? What about when the people you counted on walk away? What about when the future looks nothing like what you expected? That's when you find out what your faith is really made of. In every storm, there are two choices. You can fight against it, complain about it, and let it break you, or you can recognize that it's an opportunity. You can understand that every strong person you admire, every leader who has ever inspired you, every success story you've ever heard, they all had their storms. They all had their moments of doubt, of struggle, of wondering if they would make it. But instead of running, they stayed. Instead of giving up, they grew. They understood that the storm wasn't meant to defeat them, it was meant to develop them. Storms force you to grow in ways that comfort never will. They teach you resilience, they sharpen your perspective, they push you to lean on a strength greater than your own. You learn endurance because you had to keep going when you wanted to quit. You develop wisdom because you had to navigate uncertainty. You gain courage because you had to face fear head-on. None of that happens without the storm. The version of you that is confident, unshakable, and prepared for your destiny is formed in the struggle. The storm also reveals who you are becoming. When the winds pick up, do you react out of fear or do you stand firm in faith? When life doesn't go your way, do you collapse under pressure or do you adjust and keep moving? The way you respond to difficulty is shaping your future. Growth is never comfortable. Strength is never built without resistance. The storm isn't here to defeat you, it's here to show you what you're made of. Some people avoid storms at all costs. They stay in their comfort zones, play it safe, and do everything they can to prevent struggle. But comfort never produces greatness. The people who do something significant with their lives, the ones who inspire generations, the ones who break through limitations, they are the ones who refuse to run from the storm. They understood that transformation happens in the tension, that pressure creates diamonds, that fire refines gold. When the storm comes, it's easy to feel like a victim. It's easy to ask, why me? But the real question is, what is this storm trying to teach me? Because storms don't come to destroy, they come to prepare. They come to build you, to strengthen you, to position you for something greater than you ever imagined. The only question is whether you'll let it. Fear is a liar. It tells you that if you worry enough, if you stress enough, if you play out every worst-case scenario in your mind, somehow you'll be prepared for what's coming. But the truth is, fear doesn't protect you. It doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't give you control. It only paralyzes you. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of anxiety, overthinking, and doubt. It stops you from moving forward, from taking action, from stepping into the life you were meant to live. Think about how much fear has stolen from you. How many times have you wanted to take a risk, but fear convinced you it was too dangerous? How many dreams have you buried because fear told you it wasn't the right time? How many opportunities have you walked away from because fear whispered, "You're not ready"? Fear doesn't just slow you down, it stops you altogether. And the worst part? The storm still comes, whether you're afraid of it or not. Worrying about the storm doesn't change the storm. It doesn't make the problem smaller, it doesn't prevent the challenge from coming, and it certainly doesn't equip you to handle it better. If anything, it makes you weaker. It drains your energy before the fight even begins. It distracts you from the solutions that could help you. It tricks you into thinking that staying stuck is safer than moving forward. But fear is a terrible protector. It promises security but delivers only regret. Look at the moments in your life when fear held you back. The times you wanted to speak up but stayed silent. The times you wanted to step out but stayed in your comfort zone. The times you let doubt convince you to wait, only to realize that waiting didn't make you stronger, it just made you miss out. Now, think about the times you pushed past fear. The moments when you did it afraid. When you moved forward, despite the uncertainty. Those are the moments that changed you. Those are the moments that built your confidence, your strength, your resilience. Fear only has power when you listen to it. It grows in the spaces where you give it attention. It gains strength when you entertain its lies. But the moment you decide to take action, despite the fear, something shifts. The grip of fear starts to loosen. The more you step forward, the weaker fear becomes. Because fear is not a force, it's a habit. It's a learned response, a mindset that has been reinforced over time. And like any habit, it can be broken. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward in spite of it. The strongest people in the world aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who refuse to let it control them. They've learned that fear is just a feeling, not a fact. They've realized that fear will never go away completely, but that doesn't mean they have to obey it. They've discovered that the only way to overcome fear is to act, to take the first step, even when their knees are shaking, even when their voice trembles, even when their heart is pounding out of their chest. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for fear to disappear before they start living. They think that one day they'll wake up and feel ready, that the fear will fade, the doubts will vanish, the insecurity will leave. But that day never comes. Fear doesn't leave first. Faith moves first. The moment you step forward, fear loses its power. The moment you decide to act, fear begins to shrink. The only way to conquer fear is to refuse to let it be the loudest voice in your life. Everybody wants strength, but nobody wants the struggle that creates it. We want confidence, but we don't want to go through the situations that teach us to believe in ourselves. We want courage, but we don't want to face the fear that makes courage necessary. We want resilience, but we don't want the pressure that forges it. Strength isn't given, it's built, and the only way it's built is through resistance, through hardship, through the very challenges we try so hard to avoid. Look at anyone you admire, whether it's a leader, a mentor, or someone who carries themselves with wisdom and authority. I promise you, they didn't get there by living an easy life. They didn't wake up one day full of confidence, wisdom, and resilience. They were shaped in the fire. They were made in the moments of struggle, in the times when they had to push through pain, in the seasons where they were tested beyond what they thought they could handle. Strength isn't formed in comfort, it's forged in conflict. Think about a weightlifter. They don't get stronger by lifting what's easy. They get stronger by pushing against resistance, by lifting what stretches them, by breaking down their muscles so they can grow back even stronger. Your life works the same way. If you only do what's comfortable, if you only take on what you know you can handle, you'll never grow beyond where you are. Strength requires struggle. It demands that you step into discomfort, that you face obstacles, that you keep going even when it feels impossible. Some people spend their whole lives avoiding struggle, thinking that if they can just keep everything under control, they'll never have to face difficulty. But control is an illusion. Struggle is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is being built. When you resist the struggle, you resist your own growth. When you avoid challenges, you avoid the very experiences that would prepare you for the future you're praying for. Strength doesn't come from wishing. It comes from working, from enduring, from standing firm when everything in you wants to give up. It's in the struggle that you find out who you really are. You don't learn what you're capable of when everything is easy. You learn it when you're exhausted, but keep going. You learn it when you're discouraged, but still show up. You learn it when you feel like quitting, but decide to try one more time. The strongest people aren't the ones who never struggled. They're the ones who struggled and refused to stop. They're the ones who faced obstacles and used them as fuel instead of excuses. They're the ones who took every setback and turned it into a setup for a greater comeback. Life will test you, it will push you, it will present challenges that seem unfair, that feel overwhelming, that make you question whether you're strong enough to keep going. But strength is not about never struggling. It's about how you respond when the struggle comes. Will you shrink back or will you rise up? Will you complain or will you learn? Will you let the pressure break you or will you let it build you? The choice is always yours. Storms don't last forever. No matter how fierce the winds are, no matter how heavy the rain falls, no matter how dark the skies become, storms have an expiration date. But what you gain from them, what you build in them, what you become because of them, that stays with you, that shapes you, that transforms you. When you're in the middle of a storm, it feels like it will never end. It feels like the waves are too high, the winds are too strong, and the weight is too much to bear. Your mind starts telling you that you'll never make it through, that this situation will define you, that this season will break you. But the truth is, every storm you've ever faced has come to an end. The ones you thought were impossible, the ones you believed would destroy you, the ones that shook your world, all of them eventually passed, and here you are, still standing. Think about a storm in nature. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't announce how long it will stay. It just comes, it disrupts, it shakes things up, but then, just as suddenly as it arrived, it leaves. And what remains? The trees that bent but didn't break. The structures that stood firm despite the pressure. The foundation that proved strong enough to withstand the test. You are that foundation. You are that tree. You are stronger than you think. The storm is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It reveals what's weak so you can strengthen it. It uncovers what's fragile so you can reinforce it. It exposes what needs to change so you can grow. The challenges in your life are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to develop you. They are meant to sharpen you, to prepare you, to equip you for the next level of your journey. The problem is, most people don't see it that way. They spend their energy fighting the storm instead of learning from it. They resist the process instead of embracing the lesson. If you look back at the hardest seasons of your life, you'll realize that those were the moments that shaped you the most. The times when you had no choice but to trust, no choice but to grow, no choice but to step into a new version of yourself. Struggles teach you things that comfort never could. They show you who you really are. They show you what you're capable of. They introduce you to a strength you never knew you had. Most people want to avoid the storm, but avoiding it means missing the lesson. It means missing the growth, the wisdom, the transformation that only the storm can bring. Some storms come to clear out what no longer belongs in your life. Some storms come to shake you out of complacency. Some storms come to reposition you for something greater. Not every storm is sent to destroy. Some are sent to prepare. The question is not whether the storm will come. The question is how you will respond when it does. Will you panic or will you stand firm? Will you run or will you face it? Will you let it define you or will you let it refine you? The choice is always yours. Fear is not the problem. Giving it control is. Everyone feels fear. It's a natural response to uncertainty, to challenges, to stepping into the unknown. But the difference between those who move forward and those who stay stuck is simple. Some people allow fear to dictate their decisions, while others push through despite feeling afraid. Fear will always speak, but you don't have to listen. It will always try to convince you that you're not ready, that you're not strong enough, that you're not capable, but fear is a liar. It magnifies the worst-case scenario and makes you forget who you really are. Most people live their entire lives inside the walls that fear has built for them. They never take the risks that could change their lives because fear tells them it's too dangerous. They never step into their full potential because fear whispers that they'll fail. They never break the cycles that hold them back because fear makes them believe it's too late. Fear is like a prison guard standing at the door of your next level, telling you that you're not allowed to leave, but the door is unlocked. You just have to walk through it. Think about all the moments in your life where fear held you back. The opportunities you didn't take, the dreams you put on hold, the relationships you didn't pursue, the chances you ignored because fear convinced you it wasn't safe. And yet, how many times did the thing you were afraid of turn out to be nowhere near as bad as your mind made it seem? Fear always makes things look bigger than they are. It creates illusions. It shows you all the reasons something won't work, but it never shows you what could happen if it does. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, the ones who seem fearless, they feel fear just like you do. The only difference is that they don't let it stop them. They feel the fear, but they move forward anyway. They understand that fear is just an emotion, not a prophecy. It doesn't predict the future, it only reacts to the unknown. And if you let fear dictate your choices, you'll always be a step behind the life you were meant to live. Fear thrives in inaction. The more you hesitate, the louder it gets. The longer you wait, the stronger it becomes. But the moment you take action, fear starts to lose its grip. The moment you decide to step forward, even if you're shaking, fear begins to weaken. You don't need to be fearless, you just need to be brave enough to take the first step. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's refusing to let fear have the final say. Think about a time when you overcame something that once terrified you. Maybe it was a difficult conversation, a new opportunity, a major life change. In the moment, fear felt overwhelming, but once you walked through it, you realized you were stronger than you thought. That's the secret. Fear only has power when you let it stop you. The moment you move, the moment you act, the moment you refuse to stay stuck, fear loses its control. Fear may knock on your door, but you don't have to let it in. Storms may rage around you, but they don't have to shake what's inside you. Challenges may rise, but they don't have the power to define you unless you allow them to. You were built for more than survival. You were created to rise, to stand firm, to walk through the fire and come out stronger. Every struggle, every setback, every storm you faced, it wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to build you. Strength isn't formed in comfort, but in resistance. Growth doesn't happen in safety, but in courage. The life you're called to live isn't found in fear, it's found in faith, and faith requires movement. It requires stepping forward even when you don't have all the answers, even when the path isn't clear, even when fear is screaming at you to turn back. This is your moment. No more waiting, no more hesitating, no more allowing fear to decide your future. You have what it takes. The storm won't last, but your strength will. Fear won't control you because you are moving forward. Step into your power, step into your purpose, and don't let anything hold you back.